We have seen so many major failures in the video game industry over the past couple of years, but Concord tops them all. It lost them hundreds of millions of dollars, was shut down after only a few days on the market, and of course, now people are comparing Marathon to Concord. We've had a developer come out and say they're not the same at all, and you shouldn't hate this game just because you didn't like Concord, and now the mainstream media is damage controlling. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, without fail, the mainstream media and all of these activists that work within the industry will come out and shill and defend major companies. This one just happens to be Bungie, aka Sony, and it's not that shocking. But instead of actually listening to what gamers are saying and why we are comparing these two games, they're just coming out and saying it's definitely not the same. I mean, Marathon already has something that Concord didn't. It's funny to me that they're getting angry that people are comparing the two, but yet they also put up damage control articles comparing the two. This is one by The Gamer. It says Concord was such an interesting failure. It wasn't completely broken at launch, and the few fans it attracted were initially sold on its Overwatch-esque hero shooter mechanics, but that brief interest couldn't stop it from being dead on arrival. Yeah, the few fans it attracted definitely did not hate the game, but, well, I think their standards were already so low because they bought it in the first place. It was a disastrous failure that shut down mere days after launch and caused Sony to close the studio that made it. Marathon is Sony's next first-party premium multiplayer offering that I assume this company hopes doesn't die a quick, painful death, or is the subject of widespread morbid fascination. I think that it's funny that Sony had the biggest failure in the video game industry with Concord, and now they're trying Marathon, which does look similar. Is it exactly the same? No, because one was a hero shooter, another is an extraction shooter. Their visuals are a little bit different, but they feel similar. It feels like Sony is just completely out of touch with reality because both of these games are $40 buy-in fees and they provide you with minimal content. Like Concord only had a couple of maps, a couple of heroes, a couple of modes. Like it did not feel like they were giving you even $40 worth of content. And with Marathon, according to multiple sources, primarily Paul Tassi, which of course take everything with a grain of salt, he is saying that there are going to be 6 characters, 3 maps, and 1 mode for Marathon at launch, but it's also going to have a battle pass and microtransactions. So we're talking about like bottom of the barrel what they could provide to you. So it just seems like Sony is really like determined to make this $40 buy-in fee the norm instead of free to play for these hero shooters. Like they would want Tarkov to be $40. They would want Apex Legends to be $40. They would want Fortnite and Valorant to be $40, which one big reason why these games are massively successful is because they're free. Look at Marvel Rivals, right? It, yes, of course, has a big IP behind it, and Marvel is giant, so there would be fans, but put that aside for a second. It's free to play. You get into the game. You don't have to buy heroes. All you have to do, if you want to, is buy a battle pass, which the base battle pass is $8, and then you can buy skins if you want, which, yeah, are like $15 to $20 each. That's pretty standard when it comes to free-to-play games, so that's not outrageous, but you don't have to buy any of that if you don't want. All of the maps are unlocked, all of the modes are unlocked, all of the heroes are unlocked. That is why it is so massively successful, because you could download it, put an hour or two into it, and then uninstall or keep playing it if you enjoy it. With this, you actually have to initially invest. It says, though, not to speak ill of the dead, but who was Firewalk Studios? It wasn't an established developer. Firewalk boasted that it was composed of former Bungie and Activision developers, which certainly gave it some pedigree, but other than the fact that Sony was interested in the studio enough to purchase it, there wasn't much momentum keeping Firewalk in the public eye. I completely disagree, because there were a lot of mainstream media outlets that were covering Concord. There were a lot of YouTubers like myself covering Concord. There was some positive, there was some negative. A lot of people were talking about it on social media. And a lot of these companies view any press as good press, even if it's negative press. So you would think that this game would have been a massive success because everybody was talking about it. I don't know why they're completely ignoring that fact, but okay. If Concord had been a success, it would have likely put Firewalk on the map, but in the lead to launch, players and press alike were skeptical about nearly everything it had to offer. There wasn't much setting it apart from the rest of the multiplayer landscape, and if not for the fact that it was a first-party PlayStation game, it likely wouldn't have garnered much attention in the first place. Now that we've gotten a proper look at Marathon, people are saying that it suffers like from a lot of the same problems. I personally think that the shooting does look uninspired, like the PvPvE extraction system doesn't look very unique at all, very similar to Escape from Tarkov. Like, it is doing what Concord did, where they take parts of established games and they kind of concoct this product that is a ripoff of a lot of other titles. And that to me is just very disappointing. I mean, throughout both of these games, you can definitely see inspiration from Escape from Tarkov and Overwatch and Apex Legends and even Destiny and Call of Duty. Like, it just seems that both of these games are kind of mashups of multiple other titles, and it just doesn't come across very positively to me. I don't know why they ever decided to basically modernize and reboot Marathon anyway, because initially it was more of like a System Shock competitor. It was much more sci-fi and dark, and it was really fucking cool. But instead, they've decided to go for this just, in my opinion, really mediocre looking set of visuals, and I'm just not a fan at all. It says Bungie is one of the most successful studios of all time, which is true. I mean, in the early 2000s, it developed the original Halo trilogy. They, of course, have had games like Destiny, for example, which have been massively popular. Bungie had split from Microsoft to create Destiny and Destiny 2, and that is cool. I've liked work that Bungie's done in the past, but as I always say, just because I liked a studio in the past does not mean I will like them in the present or the future. Just because people that worked there made something good 10, 15, 20 years ago doesn't mean that that same team is there and can recreate or create something that feels as good and is as unique and original and I guess just kind of magical. Studios, unfortunately, go through a lot of people very quickly. It's not like you can expect one person to be at one studio for 30 years. That is very rare within this industry now. You know, out with the old and with the new. They want to modernize, and then those established people don't agree with the direction they're taking franchises in. That's exactly what happened with Rockstar. And well, then they just leave, and we see these failures over and over and over. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that I think Marathon is going to completely bomb like Concord. I mean, we are going to be seeing like an alpha set of content or streams, like an alpha that people are going to be able to create content from, the shills, of course, which will be interesting to see how gamers actually react to that when it happens. And it's still quite a ways away. It's not supposed to release until September, so I mean, maybe they're going to tweak things. But when you have like former Concord developers coming out and saying to be nice to Bungie, it really doesn't, sell me on a product. It's not the vote of confidence that I bet Bungie wants. Former Concord dev says it was gut-wrenching to see our project fail, but urges players not to judge Marathon too soon. To call this game a failure before it's even out is a wild. To me, it's pretty standard for gamers to see a trailer and judge it. That's kind of why companies release trailers, and what they're seeing so far, they're not particularly happy with. So of course, they're going to say, I think that this looks like certified slop. I think that this is probably going to come out and be a disaster. While, yes, I would generally agree that, like, there are some games that look bad in teasers and trailers and then come out and they're absolutely fantastic. Vice versa is also extremely possible. So I'm not going to sit here and shill for this game the way that the mainstream media is, because I haven't seen anything that I'm particularly excited for that I think looks particularly amazing. And if I think it looks bad, I'm going to voice that opinion on social media like so many other people are going to do. Like, one major point that really ticked off a lot of people was Bungie basically saying, you guys are too toxic. They said that they are adding no proximity chat for the Marathon Revival in order to create a safe space for players, which is just clown world. Like, you guys are so toxic that we are going to take a system away from you. That's the point of having mute buttons and block buttons, so you do not have to interact with people if you do not want to, but instead of allowing people to use systems that have been in games for decades, they're just taking the system away from everybody, which is so disappointing to see. So, a lot of negative news surrounding Marathon right now, but of course, we already have the mainstream media coming out and defending it, saying, oh, Marathon's already doing something that Concord didn't, and you guys need to give it a chance. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.